Welcome to episode 10 of Introduction to Botany, and in this episode we're going to be going over plant genetics. Now, a good introduction to genetics is that understanding of DNA is fairly recent. The human genome was only fully mapped in 2022, and genetic research builds on over 150 years or more of studying trait inheritance. So, getting into it, through 1822 and 1884, there was a man named Gregor Mendel. He was a monk in modern-day Czech Republic. He conducted controlled plant breeding experiments in monastery gardens. He used pea plants, which is Pisum sativum, and because they had quick growth, they self-pollinate and cross-pollinate, and they're distinguishable, easily tracked traits, like seed color, seed shape, and flower color, could all be fairly easily visibly noticeable. So, getting into Mendel's experimental approach, there was a lot of observation involved. Self-pollination overall produced consistent traits, so tall plants equaled more tall plants, and short plants equaled more short plants, and yellow plants equaled more yellow plants, and green plants equaled more green plants, and so on. Now, real quick, cross-pollination is manually transferred pollen using a paintbrush. He crossed plants with different traits, and he found out that traits are not blended. An example would be you have a purple or a white flower, and those two breed together. The purple flowers aren't lavender. They're not going to blend into a mixed color. There's going to be specific genetic traits that show more compared to others. And some traits can be hidden or reappear in later generations. There's also a difference between a phenotype and a genotype. A phenotype is an observable characteristic like yellow peas or smooth seed pods. A genotype is a genetic makeup controlling the phenotype, and those are alleles. Those aren't visible by the naked eye, you have to use microscopy. And these traits controlled by alleles, which can be dominant or recessive. A good example would be you have a smooth pod allele, or an allele that causes smooth seed pods. Then you have one that causes wrinkled seed pods. Let's say the smooth one is dominant and the wrinkled one is recessive. The phenotype will generally reflect the dominant allele if present. So then we get into Mendel's principles of inheritance. There's a principle of dominance. One allele can mask the presence of another. Diploid organisms have two alleles per gene, one from each parent. And that leads to getting into the principle of segregation. Different alleles separate during gamete formation, when you get into the haploid eggs or sperm. Each gamete gets one allele per gene, and fertilization restores the diploid state. Then you have the principle of independent assortment. This is where alleles of different genes segregate independently. The sperm-egg combination for one trait does not necessarily affect another trait, and this explains phenotypic variety. And Mendel's work was initially ignored. It was only rediscovered in the 1900s. And those principles apply broadly to all organisms, not just peas. And it formed the foundation of modern genetics. There's also extensions and complex traits. Complex traits are influenced by multiple genes and sometimes even the environment. An example would be rice yield and human eye color. Linked genes can violate independent assortment. And there's also mutations that can happen. This can produce new alleles. There's advantageous mutations, and this improves survival and reproduction, like the red monkey flower petals attracting hummingbirds. There's also deleterious mutations, and this reduces fitness, and it could, for example, lower corn yield. There's also neutral mutations, which has no observable effect. And a lot of times these mutations don't necessarily lead to beneficial stuff. More times than not, it actually leads to no effects showing obviously, or it leads to harmful effects. And overall, Mendelian inheritance plus mutations drive genetic variation and evolution. Now, if you could take away anything from this lesson, it would be that Mendel's experiments revealed predictable inheritance patterns. The phenotypic diversity in plants is the result of millions of generations of allele combinations. This provides the basis for plant breeding, genetics, and biotechnology. Thanks for watching this lesson, micro lesson, whatever you want to call it, of Introduction to Botany. And if you want to get updated on any more botanical or plant content, then don't forget to subscribe.